Hello, Blakehurst. How are we doing today? Happy Memorial Day. Today, I have a fellow resident, Dr. Armin Mruck, who was a Lance Corporal for the German Air Force as well as the German Army. So, Mr. Mruck, during your time with the German Air Force and Army, I guess we're going to start with a few questions.
Okay, sure.
How old were you when you enlisted, or were you enlisted?
I was born in 1925, so when I enlisted, I was 1943, so I was 18 years old. And so the first place that I was drafted to, no, I volunteered to serve in the Air Force. That's another story, because if you just waited until you were drafted, and you didn't have a choice. They put you anywhere they wanted to. And I said, well, you know, my brother was crashed in an airplane accident in 1943, and so I said, well, I'm going to go to the Air Force myself. And so I joined the Air Force, and I stayed in the Air Force until September 1944. And that's when the Air Force was short in gasoline, and they had fewer planes to fly, and so they stopped our training. I was actually in training, but then they stopped it, and they said, okay, now we're going to put you into the regular army. And it didn't take very long that I found myself in the front lines, in the Eastern Front, so-called Eastern Front, and that is confronting the Soviet Army. You know, so September 1944.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Now, speaking before we started our video, you did say that you preferred the Air Force. You answering the question, my question, obviously it makes sense considering that when you were in the Army, you were on the front lines, starting with the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
What was it like to be in Germany, serving your home country, and knowing that you had so many enemies and enemy territories that you, as a country, were trying to take over in Europe?
Good question. I think the answer is that you are part of a big crowd. And it was not just you who were being in a war, but there was millions and millions and millions of other people, German people who were in the war. And some of them all the way back to 1939, and some even earlier, because they had a draft. You had to serve in the army. And so my father, who was a reserve officer in World War I, he was already in his late 50s, and he was drafted in August 1939. And so he was a soldier in the German army all the way until 1945.
Wow.
For a short time he came to be a British POW, but they didn't keep him long, so then in 1945 he went back into a civilian job as being a teacher. And so, you know, I think one needs to understand that you're part of a whole, and it's just a natural thing. You just don't think, okay, sure, everyone else goes. All my buddies were gone, and already in the last year in the gymnasium, which is a German high school, we were only, in the graduating class, we were only 5 people left. And so then that was 1943, and then in August 1943 I joined the Air Force.
So right out of high school.
And then, right out of high school, and just a few months after my brother had died. And so you have to look at it from the human point of view, and that is that my mom was all by herself, because I was the only remaining son. So my father was in the armed forces, and my brother had died, and I was the last one in the family who just had to go. So, but the first part of my service in the Air Force was really nothing particularly dangerous even, because we were supposed to become pilots or reconnaissance people.
Okay.
And so I was drafted, not drafted, I volunteered from August 1943, and the first assignment I had after for boot training was in the southern part of France. And of course, you know, for us at that time to get abroad was something very, very special. So, as I say, in this country, join the army and see the world.
Right.
So I joined the Air Force and saw part of the world. And so I was stationed in a middle-sized French town called Béziers, B-E-Z-I-E-R, on the Mediterranean.
Very nice.
And we moved into French barracks, which were not as nice as German barracks. You know, German barracks were very comfortable, and the French barracks were very basic. So we were 12 people in one room, 12 young guys, and they had one bed over the other one. So there were one bed here, another bed second stool, and the third one, and I was in the top bed. And so it was basic training. Well, sometimes it was not very nice because some of the field that we trained had nasty kind of stones and stuff like that. When you're a soldier, you have to lie down and stuff like that. And so, but it was okay. And then it's a sort of funny story. One time I was so homesick. And so what you do as a soldier, you got always paid at the end of the week. And so I went to what they call the canteen, which is the sort of a social room, and there's a bar. And I talked to the bartender, and I said, you know, I'm homesick, and just give me as much to drink as I can stand, or even beyond that. So I drank. And I drank myself in a stupor. I couldn't walk anymore.
Did
So
it help with your...
two other bodies who were there. They grabbed me by my shoulders and by my feet and carried me into our room.
And did it help with your homesickness?
And then they had to lift me all the way up all the way on top.
Whew.
That was the job. But like 11 o'clock, the corporal who was on duty would come in, and then everyone had to stand up, and then he said, well, anything happening here? And of course I was all the way on top, and I couldn't stand up. So he looked at me, he was perplexed. He said, Mruck, get up. And I just laughed at him and said, I can't. And he said again, get up now, this is an order. I laughed again and said, I can't get up, even if I wanted to. And then he didn't know what to do, but in the end he said, okay, you are refusing to obey the order, and I'm going to report you to the company chief, and you will have to report in full uniform on Monday morning at 7:30. Okay, so I got dressed for the uniform, and I reported to the chief of my unit, and he sat behind his desk in a comfortable room, and he said, okay, Mruck, at ease, just be at ease. Tell me, son, he said, tell me, son, what happened? I have to laugh. And so I was at ease, and he said, well, tell me what happened. So I told him my story. And I said, oh God, and I said, I understand you're homesick and so, but don't do it again. That was it.
That's funny.
That was it. And, okay. And I was stationed there in Béziers for something like September 43 until 44, early 44 or late 43, I don't know exactly now. And but one other thing I think might be interesting to people and to you, and that is we sort of kind of mixed with the native French population. And one of the big events in Béziers was a bloodless bullfight. They had bullfights, but they were bloodless. They only tortured the animals, but they didn't kill the animal. And so what did we do as a young soldiers were curious. So we went to the big stadium, huge stadium with thousands and thousands of people there, with all French people and some German soldiers. And then before we told the chief that we were going to the ball game, he said, great, we're curious. But I said, I want to tell you one thing. You know, we respect our enemies, and the French used to be our enemies. And in the beginning of the game, whatever you want to call it, the beginning, they will play the French national anthem. And you must stand up and salute. Although you're German soldiers, we occupy this country, but you show your respect by standing up and salute. Okay, so that's what we did. And the French people looked, and it was okay. So it was a good experience, but there was nothing particular negative or bad. We were occupation soldiers. We didn't. I had a little more to do with French people because I knew French in high school. I learned French in high school, and German high schools we usually learn 3 languages. Latin is first, and the second one is English, and the third one is French. And so one of the leading people in the unit said, well, you know French, so perhaps you can help me because I want to go buy an extra things for everyone here in the barracks. And it's like, what? Well, you know, in Germany you cannot get silk stockings anymore for women, and all kinds of things, fountain pens, and these things you can sort of buy here, but I need someone to translate. So I traveled with them quite a bit, all the way to the Spanish border, and we bought stuff. And brought it home, and then I went to the shop, and people enjoyed it and sent it back home. And that was all possible. You think that wars is always something extraordinary, but there's some normality in war also, and this was pretty normal. Okay, so that was my time in Béziers, and then we were moved as a unit all the way up to the Channel Coast, the Pas-de-Calais. The northeastern part of France is called Pas-de-Calais, and we were stationed in a small French village by the name of Anguingot, and we were put into private quarters. And so I was moved because now I was a male guy, and so we had a male office, that's one other body, and we were moved into a private home, a small home with a farm house, and my body and I, we had one bedroom, and next to us were the French people in the other bedroom. And since I knew French, and my body knew French also, he was also a high school graduate, we very soon socialized with the French people there. And so we got to talk, and one time I said to him, there was a grandfather there, so the grandpère, what do you think about us German guys here being in your home? And he said, you know, in our area here in northeastern France, we've had soldiers of many different countries. And so I don't have any bad feelings towards you, because I know you want to be home. Every soldier wants to be home. And so we just had a very civil relationship with each other. And one other little story, which also might give you an idea, but there is some kind of, there's humanity in the war also. Mm-hmm. And so we felt very comfortable, and there was a granddaughter, and the French people at that time were short in fuel to heat their ovens. And but as soldiers being stationed there, we got regular supply. But we're not supposed to share that with any French people. And so what we worked out is that when I unloaded that truck with coal, and some of the coal I let fall by the wayside, and there was little French Michelle, and she picked it up, and so she was always my grandmother. And so these are they're perhaps insignificant, but they are significant. They are significant. The point which I'm making is that even in war, you can build bridges between people. People
Right.
refer to each other.
And there's still humanity
Yeah, I think.
and a moral compass that everybody stuck to out of respect.
Yeah, that's another thing that this grandparent said, you know, we're all humans. We're all humans.
So
And,
after your time with the Air Force, when you moved into the Army, the German Army, you spoke about being on the front lines at the Soviet Union. For the,
yeah, on the so-called Eastern Front.
So from there, what were your orders?
Okay, well, when I had done my time in the Air Force, and then I went back still with the Air Force to pilot school, and we just had college training there, navigation and all kind of stuff. But then, as I said, we ran out of gasoline, and I never saw a plane from the inside. So we were commandeered to the regular army, and I landed up in the so-called field artillery unit. I had no idea about what to do there. There was a couple of weeks we had training, but there was nothing significant. And then it didn't take very long. By late September, early October, we put into trucks, and then we got unloaded from trucks, and we marched into trenches.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Trenches. I've never been in a trench before, but well, what can you do? You're a soldier. You do what you have to do.
That's right.
And again, I think I was lucky because I shared a part of the trench with the sergeant major and the lieutenant who was in charge of the unit, and we sort of we became friends. And so we said, well, let's go in this special part of the trenches, and just the three of us. Okay. And then all of a sudden, one night I hear bang, 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 and a grenade falling not too far away from the trenches. And I said, And then the sergeant major said, Mruck, go outside now, and probably our part of the trench is not totally darkened. They probably can see from a distance that there was some light shining from the German trenches. And of course what they do is to shoot at the place where they see light.
Right.
Yeah. But they didn't hit us at that time. And then now we get into early October 1944, and that's when the Soviets, I was stationed now no longer in any part of the Soviet Union. Our unit was in the northeastern part of Germany called East Prussia. So we're defending now German soil. We're no longer in the enemy territory, but we were on German soil. That of course gave you an extra kind of motivation to defend your homeland. And the stories which were circulating were not stories, were not the kind of stories about Red Army soldiers. That they had occupied some small part of East Prussia at an earlier time, like in September, only for a short time, but it was made public, and international teams also verified that the Soviet unit, Red Army unit, occupied this village, and they took the women and raped the women, many of them, and then after that they killed them and nailed them against the barn door of the farm. Because that kind of story gets you some extra fear. You don't want that to happen to your own folks. So anyway, but so the Soviet Army made their first major attack on German soil in October 1944. And so I was in real combat, and people died here and there, bodies died. And we're not wounded at that time, and then comes October 24th, 1944. Exactly was October 24, 1944. And the Soviets had occupied part of the German trenches, and so we were counter-attacking. And so I was part of that counter-attack, my platoon. And I remember that, like, I sit right here. All of a sudden I confronted a Russian Soviet soldier, and he was scared, like I was scared. And then he killed, and he almost killed me because he was quicker on his trigger. And the only thing that saved me that I can sit here was that I turned my body to the left, I guess, which is instinct, and so he hit me on my back. But he didn't hit me such a way that I could not move anymore. So I could move. And then I moved backward, and I got into what they call a field hospital. And I was in the basement of a farmhouse, and in this basement were hundreds and hundreds of wounded German soldiers. They were just lying there, not much care. There's no nurses or so. And so I was supposed to lie down there. I said, no. He said, well, okay, if you can walk. And I said, I can walk. I give you 2 more bodies who can also walk, and you go further to the back, and then you get some medic truck, and they will pick you up and take you to a regular field hospital. So I ended up in a field hospital, and first thing I got there was a shot so that you would not get I call it tetanus. So it was a tetanus shot. So the shot was done to prevent for you to get that you could not move anymore, that you would probably die. And I fainted from that because it was a very big shot, and then I lied down. And then next day, a couple of days or 3 days later, I was moved further into a regular military hospital. And then I finally got into a nice bed with white linen, and the nurse said, okay, soldier, we have to strip you and so make you clean. And of course I was a middle-class kid, and I never stripped myself in front of a woman. And she said, oh, soldier, come on now, I've seen many, many nude men before. They say, take off your clothes. So, oh, okay, so I took my clothes, and got cleaned up. And then I stayed in that hospital for a while. And then the Soviets got closer, and then we moved closer into central part of Germany. And then I got in a better hospital. And that was now November 1944, late November. And I was in a small German town. The war had not touched it at all. No bombs had fallen there. And so life was fairly normal, considering that there's wartime going on. So I stayed there until late December, early January 1945 now. And then I was good enough again to be released, discharged from the hospital. And the rules and regulations were that you had to go back to your, what you call your home garrison, which was back in the east, in East Prussia. And so I went in a train. Now, in between, I must tell you, my mom, it was difficult to travel, but my mom came to visit me there for a couple of days, and I thought it was a very moving experience, and it only lasted a few days. And so I went back to my major garrison, my home garrison, and in this garrison, I had to report, and again, Sergeant Major said, okay, you just come, you've been wounded in October 24, but you're entitled to 3 weeks leave of absence. Oh, wow, fantastic. Leave of absence. So I got this piece of paper, packed my things, and I traveled by train, back to my hometown where my mom was. I thought she was there. Perhaps I should stop here. You might have some questions because I'm just rattling on here.
I was getting intrigued. I want to know where your mom is now.
Yeah, okay, well, if you're intrigued, if that's okay with you.
Please, go for it. So you head back home on your 3
so,
weeks of leave of absence.
I get there.
You get
there.
there.
I get off the train in a small train station. It's a middle-sized small town, 20,000 people live there. And when I get off the train in that station, something was not really right there, because usually when you get off the train, there are military guards and they check your papers, and then you can go on to your home. There's no guard there anymore. And it was very strange, no people, or very few people. I thought, what's going on here? And so I walked to the apartment in which my parents had lived for a long, long time. And that was middle class way in Germany. Very few people had their own homes. So people had nice apartments. And so my parents, my father was a teacher, so we lived in a nice apartment, typical middle class neighborhood. And our apartment was on the 3rd floor, so I went up the stairs, my heart beating faster and faster and faster. Okay, we are seeing my mom now. And so I rang the doorbell, and strange people opened the door. What's going on here? I said, I'm at home and this is my home. And she said, are you looking for your mother, right? Well, she left yesterday or the day before, because the Soviets were getting closer and closer, and she said you'd be safer. And so we are people who had to flee from the Soviets also, so this is just our temporary place, and that's the way it is. Oh, yeah, I'm home but not home, and I was crying now. And then I said, well, there was a children's room. In your children's room, your mom had made some cherry pie for you, and there's cherry pie still waiting for you. So I grabbed the cherry pie. And what you do as a soldier, next thing is no place to go anymore, so you went to report at the local garrison. That's what you did. And before I got there, it was early in the morning, like about 8:30, something like that. It was January 20th, 21st, early in the morning, and it's very, very cold, but one of the typical East Prussians winters, lots of snow and cold, freezing temperatures. And so I was just about to enter the barracks and report, and then I met a high school teacher from me, and he was in a captain's uniform because he was in the reserve. And he looked at me and he said, Mruck, what are you doing here? I said, well, I got to leave of absence. He said, what? Leave of absence? Right now, you leave of absence? I said, yeah, I got a paper right here. I'm going to report now. And he said, if I can give you some good advice. And remember now, he was in the uniform of an officer, I think he was a captain. And this German person, high school teacher, in the uniform of a German officer, captain, and he looked at me and said, Mruck, don't go there. I said, why? I guess that's what I need to do. And he said, I tell you what they do. They take your paper away, and they're so-called People's Grenadier units. And there's one here in a People's Soldier unit, and there's one here in Osterode, in my hometown, and they're supposed to defend, because the Soviets are very, very close to our hometown. They'll put you into a unit without training, and you just have to defend your hometown. There's no point doing that, because it's just a stupid thing to do. So I said, well, what do you suggest now? So, well, you have an uncle, right? Uncle Walter. He said, yeah. Well, he's in charge of the unit here. He was also a reserve guy. And why don't you go and see him? I'll tell you where he is. So I went to that place. And so my Uncle Walter said, what are you doing here? Okay, so I said, well, I told you my story. Then, oh my God, oh my God. And so he said, well, there's a bus leaving right now with senior citizens. They're being, is that it? Okay, time out.
Keep going.
Yeah, there's a senior citizens bus, and they're being evacuated. And I will make sure that you get in the bus and you go to a town not too far away. And so, of course, I took that recommendation, and the people, the senior people, were not particularly happy to see me as a soldier in uniform, because then the Soviets catch up with you and say the other guys are all just in civilian clothes and they're going to kill you, they're just going to shoot you. Okay, well, there's more stories to tell, but
So after your leave of absence,
yeah.
did you return back to boots on the ground in trenches?
No, leave of absence. I saw my father in a small town. He was also a military officer in reserve. And then I was in a small group of other people, moved further westward until I was once again regimented into another alarm unit, I called it. And then it was by February I found myself in action once again. So confronting now the Soviets had moved all the way to the further western part in Germany, not the western, but further to the west from the east. And here I was wounded again. And I was fortunate again, because many people were wounded, were just, they stayed there, and there was quite catch by Soviets, and you know what happened, right? Also, just actually, one of my buddies, grenades fell between our unit, and my buddy just fell on his face, and he died, and I had to move on. And I was wounded, and then I was lucky to get to the Baltic Sea port, and I got on a big ship. It used to be a tourist ship, but now it was a ship evacuating Germans all the way into Denmark. And so I found myself on the ship and find myself after 4 or 5 days in Copenhagen in Denmark. I put in a beautiful reserve hospital. And once again, the same kind of procedure. At this time, there were Danish nurses, and I said, okay, so you take out your clothes and that kind of stuff. And then I was moved from the boat to the reserve hospital in Copenhagen, Denmark. And I looked outside, there were street lights burning and quiet. I said, oh my God, what's happening here? It's part German nurses, part Danish nurses, and so I cleaned up. And the first morning that I was reawake, the Danish nurse came and said, "Soldiers, what do you like to have?" No one has asked me for a long time what I like to have. I said, well, okay, would you like some real milk? Would you like to have some tarts, some nice cake? You're so money, soldiers and money. Sure, soldiers money. And she said, I'm going to go get it. And we got cake and all kind of stuff, and good food. And I stayed there for until, what was it now? April, late March, early April 1945. Then we were transported to a German hospital because I was still not well enough to move, and I got some wound fever. My left foot was all getting swollen, big up to here, and so I had to report again to a medic. And once again, luck was on my side, and I reported and I looked at the medic. He was a medical officer, and he looked at me and said, "Armin, what's going on?" He said, "You see what's going on?" "Oh my God," he said. "Oh no, God, no, you are not capable to do anything, so I send you back to the next best military hospital." So I went back to the hospital. That's when I experienced the end of the war.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wounded twice.
Yes, that's right. Wounded
The
twice.
Air Force and the Army.
Yeah, that's
France.
right. Yeah, right.
The Soviet Union. East Prussia.
Yeah.
Central Germany.
Yeah.
Denmark. You really made your way around
Yeah, all right.
during your time.
Be a soldier and join the world and see the world.
And you sure did that.
Yeah.
Now, what was your thought on how Hitler ran the German army?
Not much.
Not much.
Not much thinking going on. You're a soldier. You did what you asked to do, what you ordered to do. You don't ask any questions. I must make some reservation about my own comment. My father was, as I said, a reserve officer, but he was never a National Socialist. He never admired Adolf Hitler. He never admired the Nazis, just the opposite. He could have become principal of his school, but the condition would have been that he joined the Nazi Party, and he said, no, I'm not going to join the Nazi Party. And my mom said, why don't you just do this? And no, I have my convictions, and so he didn't join the Nazi Party. And so I grew up in a household with a father who was always saying, come on, son. Come on. And so that was my story. Then, of course, there's another important thing that I can tell you about. When I was in pilot school, we go backward to 1944 to August 1944. On July 20th, 1944, there was the alarm bell rang, bang, 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 bang. Everyone ordered to go to the assembly grounds, and so we put on your clothes and went to the assembly grounds, and there's the commander of the Air Force School, and he said, I just have to report briefly to you that an assassination attempt has been made on the Führer in his headquarters. We don't know yet what the outcome is, but I need to report to you that an attempt on the life of the Führer has been committed, and since we are about 3 hours by truck away from Hitler's headquarters, you go back to your rooms and you put on your regular uniform, and if necessary we give you some rifles. We didn't have any rifles in school, and then you might be traveling down to Hitler's headquarters to defend the Führer, as he was called. But the interesting thing, in retrospect, the interesting thing is he said that just as a matter of fact, not that he was even in any way emotionally involved. So that too bad that someone tried to kill the Führer, or so, no. So it was just matter of fact, and he discharged us, and the same attitude I realized and experienced when I went back with my buddies to our comfortable rooms, and no one of us spoke one single word. I think that some guys would have said, jeez, how can this happen? Someone trying to kill the Führer, the commander-in-chief? But nothing, no single comment, so you could figure out what we thought. And the thought was, the forbidden thought, well, wouldn't it be okay if he would have been killed, then I could go home. So, I think we need to look at the experience in a war like mine very often from an individual human point of view.
Right.
People maintain their humanity. And one thing which I can say in the end, one of the reasons why I ended up here in Reisterstown at Towson University was because going through all the experience, I thought my job would be now to build bridges between people. Build bridges between people from all different kind of countries. And so that's what I've done as part of my but I leave, I hope, to posterity too. We have friends. My wife was a bridge builder also. We have friends all over Japan and China and Taiwan and Denmark and Norway. We have a guest book. The Mruck house was called the Western International Guest House. And my parents gave us a guest book, and we have 4 volumes. And some of the entries I cannot read because they're written in languages that I cannot read. But today, the one good thing is that I can communicate by email, that I get mail from Denmark, from Sweden, from France, from Poland, many countries, and we're building bridges between people.
It's beautiful.
Bridges.
Because of your experience.
Yeah, from my experience. And the major bridge that I was able to build was the bridge between Towson University and the University of Northwestern Germany by a visiting professor also. And that was a partnership treaty signed in 1987, and this partnership exists now for 30 years. And faculty exchanges, and student exchanges, administrators exchanges, and many bridges have been built, and they're still there.
It's amazing.
My story.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mruck.
I guess emotional then, you know, it's emotional.
That's very fair.
Yeah.
That's very fair. Well, thank you for your service.
You want to?